Hello, and welcome back to Feel Good Alcohol Free. I'm Lindsay, sober coach and founder of Feel Good AF, a 13-week group program for high-achieving women who want to let go of shame, reclaim their confidence, and quit drinking for good. If you've been in my world for a while, or we are just meeting today, I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad mostly because it means you are taking the time for yourself. Time to explore a change if you want to make one in your life, time to be open to new ideas and ways of doing things, time to reflect, and time to learn. This is a podcast for women who are sober curious or already sober and are looking for support in navigating a life without alcohol. You may be thinking, what does that look like for me? How do I live an alcohol-free life that doesn't feel like I'm missing something? How do I keep a consistent practice of sobriety? And how do I get to that next level of living where I'm so happy, so peaceful, so present and content that I don't even think about alcohol anymore? This is the podcast for you, and welcome. You are a high-achieving, hard-working, successful woman in so many areas of your life who deserves to find a solution to the issue that has been holding too tight of a grip: alcohol. And it is possible. The solution exists. Here's the thing. I know firsthand how hard it can be to imagine life without alcohol. I had a hard time letting it go. I spent years trying to moderate, trying to be a normal drinker, convincing myself that I could somehow crack the code to drinking just the right amount. Holding on to that belief is what kept me stuck for way too long. So if you ever found yourself thinking, why can't I just get this? Especially after trying again and again, you're not alone. And just because you've been trying and are not there quite yet, you're not failing. There is a whole lot of success under your belt already, I promise. Today, we're going to talk about that exhausting loop so many high-achieving women get stuck in when they're trying to quit drinking. You've made progress, maybe even had stretches of being alcohol-free, and then something happens. You drink. You feel disappointed. You start to wonder if you're just never going to get it. That loop, the one where it feels like you're trying so hard and somehow still not getting anywhere, you're not the only one in it. And you're definitely not doing anything wrong. This episode isn't about blame or self-discipline or white-knuckling harder. It's about clarity. Because once you see what's really happening under the surface, the pressure starts to lift. And progress is going to stop feeling like such a mystery. So today we're breaking this down. Why that "why can't I get it" feeling is so common, what getting it actually means, and what to do when you're in that frustrating, sticky middle place where it feels like it's not working. Okay, let's get into it. Let's be real. When you're a high achiever, the struggle doesn't just feel frustrating. It feels personal. You've accomplished so many things in your life. You know how to work hard. You know how to follow through. So when quitting drinking doesn't click right away, it's easy to slip into that mindset of, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get this? But with alcohol, that strategy backfires because this isn't just about putting in the effort. It's about understanding. Understanding what you're dealing with isn't just a behavior. It's a deeply wired habit loop, one that's been reinforced by your nervous system, your environment, and your emotional patterns over time. For many women, at some point in their life, alcohol became a reward, or maybe the reward, a way to self-soothe, to transition, to feel like you've earned a break. So when you try to remove it without replacing the reward or reworking the pattern, your brain kind of throws a fit. Not because you're weak, but because it's trying to protect what feels familiar. I remember a moment so clearly. I had taken a full 30-day break. I was reading every piece of Quit Lit I could get my hands on. Podcasts, science, brain chemistry. I knew what alcohol was doing to my body and my mind, but I still told myself it's just one glass when we were out with friends. You've been there, I'm sure. But of course, it wasn't. It was a bottle and a nightcap. And the next morning, I made myself a Bailey's and coffee and followed it with mimosas at brunch. I was so mad at myself, I didn't even want to think about it. So what did I do? I just drank again. And I made it mean something huge, that I was a failure, that I was never going to get it, that something was broken inside me. But here's what I've learned, and what I want you to hear loud and clear. A slip into the comfort zone isn't proof that you're failing. It's often proof that something is shifting inside of you, especially when you're able to recognize it as a slip. That this isn't what you want to do anymore. You are no longer drinking on autopilot. That something is shifting inside you. You're noticing, you're reflecting. That's progress. Okay, most of us are taught to treat a struggle like a problem. But in this work, struggle is often part of the actual process. And when you're used to overachieving, you'll try to double down on effort when what you really need is a different approach. There's also science at play here. Your brain has wired alcohol into your habit loop, where stress, fear, or social discomfort cue a reward. Your nervous system has learned that alcohol equals relief, calm, a way to cope. So every time you try to break that loop, you're not just making a decision. You're interrupting a pattern your brain and body have relied on for years. That's not a personal failure. That's a process of rewiring. And that's why the path to freedom isn't always straightforward. It's not clean. There are pivots, pauses, slips back into what feels easier. But every time you come back to awareness, you're building something. Not failing, you're learning. This journey isn't linear, it's layered. And that I should get it feeling, it's not a failure signal. It's a sign that you're in the work, that you're on the edge of something shifting. Okay, let's shift gears. What getting it really means and why that definition might be hurting you. I want to clear something up. Most women I work with come in thinking that getting it means never drinking again. Starting now, doing it perfectly, and never slipping. And listen, I get why that's the assumption. When you've spent your life setting goals and hitting them, anything less than 100% feels like a failure. But here's the truth about that definition. It's not just unrealistic, it's harmful. Because getting it isn't about perfection. It's about peace. It's about freedom. It's about having fewer conversations with yourself about drinking. Wouldn't that be nice? It's about being able to go to brunch or a stressful work event or sit alone on a Friday night and not need a drink to survive it. It's not about white knuckling your way through every situation. It's about building a life where alcohol stops feeling necessary. Okay, let me say this plainly. Shame and willpower might work short term, but if they're your only tools, you will burn out. I'm going to share what actually works. It takes rebuilding trust with yourself, unlearning the idea that alcohol is your reward, your relief, your identity, and becoming a woman who lives differently. That change doesn't happen because you forced it. It happens because you stayed curious, stayed honest, and kept coming back to your vision even when it felt hard. You keep that version of yourself you're trying to become top of mind, front and center. If it's not aligned with your goals, it's a no. So this is what I mean. Getting it is not a checkbox. It's becoming the version of you that you know you are capable of and you deserve. She's waiting for you. And this is exactly the work I do with women. We don't just talk about not drinking. We rebuild that internal structure that makes alcohol feel unnecessary. Like the woman who told me she couldn't imagine going on vacation without wine. And 2 months later, she texted me from her beach chair saying, "I have never felt more present in my body. I am not missing a thing. Or one of my clients who used to pour a drink after every hard meeting. Instead of white knuckling through stress, she learned how to regulate her nervous system and ask herself what she actually needed. Okay, spoiler alert, it wasn't Chardonnay. It was a break, a boundary, a good walk. Or the woman who thought alcohol was the only way she could connect with her partner. She was terrified without it, that they'd have nothing in common. But as she let herself be fully seen, the intimacy deepened, not because of alcohol, but because of honesty. Again, these changes don't all happen at once, but they're real and they're earned. And they're possible when you stop trying to perfect sobriety and start creating a life that feels good without alcohol in it. Okay, how long does it take? The real timeline that doesn't really get talked about. We love a deadline, a finish line. You should feel better by day X, but that's not how this actually works. In the early days, you might not feel better right away. In fact, some things get harder before they get easier. Your sleep might get worse before you start loving your sleep. That's your nervous system recalibrating, not a sign that it's not working. Your emotions, they will probably feel louder because you're finally hearing them without the buffer. Your social identity, it might feel cracked open. You'll notice how much of your world was built around alcohol and how lonely that can feel at first. Now, this is really important. I want you to know that that part is so temporary, just like everything that you're going to go through. So here's the other thing I want you to know. That's not failure. It's just phase one. I want to offer you a new lens to look through at this whole idea of the timeline. We're going to break this out into 3 phases today. Phase number 1 is detach. This is when you're stepping away from the habit. Things feel raw, unfamiliar. You might swing between I've got this and what the hell am I doing about 10 times a day. You've interrupted a loop your brain expects to complete. So the cue, stress, celebration, boredom, still shows up. But the usual reward of alcohol isn't there. Your brain kind of sounds this alarm. Wait, where's the relief that we're used to? This is why your cravings spike. Your sleep might tank and your emotions get loud. It's not just psychological, it's physiological. You're in withdrawal from a behavior your system had come to rely on. Phase 2, stabilize. This is where your nervous system starts to settle. You're building routines that support you, but you're still figuring out how to handle stress, celebrations, and connection without reaching for that old default. It takes a lot of repetition to get to this phase. Repetition of the new helps you move on from the old. This is where you're restructuring. You're forming new loops, new rituals. You're still aware of the pull, but you're starting to pause. You're responding instead of reacting. This is when women in my program start saying things like, I had the thought, but I didn't act on it. That's progress. Your brain is building new neural pathways. It takes repetition, consistency, and most importantly, it takes compassion. Willpower might get you through a few days, but compassion is what gets you through this phase. Okay, let's move on to the 3rd phase, and I think you're going to like it. Phase 3 is what I call the rebuild. This is where the magic really happens. You start seeing that you're creating a life that feels good without alcohol. It's not just about abstaining. It's about expansion, alignment, and confidence. Remember, if it's not aligned with your goals, it's a no. You're going to start feeling so much more confident in saying no once you reach this phase. What once felt like an exhausting decision becomes part of who you are. The new behavior, journaling, walking, texting your support crew, isn't just something that you force anymore. It's something you do, sometimes without even thinking. That's when it starts to feel like discipline, not punishment. Like you've built this discipline around your new life. Like peace, not pressure. So when you ask, how long does it take? The truth is, it's different for everyone. Because it's not about how fast you change, it's about how deeply you're willing to shift, how often you're willing to pause, to notice, to try again. Your timeline isn't defined by strength. It's defined by your honesty and your vision. Each phase has its own challenges and breakthroughs and length. It's not based on how strong or disciplined you are, but on how willing you are to get curious, to keep coming back, to see every slip, every wobble as data, not defeat. This isn't about racing to the finish line. It's about becoming the woman who doesn't need alcohol to feel whole. What do you do when you're in the I'm trying but it's not sticking phase? Let's switch gears a little bit. If you're in this phase, I really want you to hear this. You're not lost. You're in it. This messy, repetitive, frustrating part, it's not proof that you're failing. It's proof that you're in the exact space where transformation starts to take root. I want you to think about something in your life that you learned to do. It could be something more recent, like maybe you've joined a pickleball club, or something from when you were a kid, like how to ride a bike. When we make the decision to try something new, to learn a new skill, like speaking another language, or to pick up a hobby, like chess, it's not like we assume we will know everything about speaking Spanish after a single lesson, or that we will be competing in the chess world championships after our first match. We give ourselves grace and we recognize we are in the learning phase. So why then do we hold ourselves up to perfection when it comes to this? We're so used to measuring progress by clean lines and check boxes. But this work isn't linear. It's layered. And this phase where it feels like you should have it figured out, but it still isn't clicking, is not a setback. It's the actual work. You're not starting over. You're deepening your learning. Every time you circle back, you're returning with more awareness, more honesty, and more willingness to look at what's really going on. Ladies, that's not regression. That's evolution. This is the part where your old coping mechanisms bump up against your new self-awareness. It's loud, it's uncomfortable, and it's incredibly important because this is where you start asking better questions. This is where you stop performing control and start building trust. This part of the journey often feels the most frustrating, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing more than ever before. You're aware, you're trying, you want this, and yet it still feels like something isn't clicking. That tension is real, my friend. But here's the truth. This is the stretch where real change actually begins to take shape. Right in the space between knowing what you want and being able to fully live it. It's the awkward middle where you've outgrown the old habits, but the new ones haven't fully taken hold. Where your brain is catching up to your vision. Where your nervous system is still learning that safety doesn't have to come in a glass. It's slow, it's subtle, it's powerful. And if it feels like you're walking through wet cement some days, you're not failing. That is the friction of becoming. I want to move into some tactical actions you can take when a slip happens or when you feel like you're slipping back into old patterns. First, try asking yourself this instead of spiraling. What did I need at that moment that alcohol promised but didn't deliver? I'm going to say that again. Ask yourself, what did I need at that moment that alcohol promised but didn't deliver? Was it relief? Belonging, permission to pause? That one question can shift the energy from judgment to understanding. Okay, you know I love sharing new things for you to try along your journey. This isn't because I believe you must try this very tool I am going to give you in order to be successful. This is because you are unique, and one set of rules or tools is not the only way to do things. I'm a strong believer that we have to take what serves us and leave what doesn't. So, with that in mind, here are 3 tools that you can use to work through this. And I'm optimistic that one of them will work for you. I talk about this a lot in my group, and some of the women have really loved this first one. Voice notes. When you're in the moment, spiraling with a craving, second guessing yourself, or just feeling off, your thoughts can move really fast. And writing can feel like a bit of a chore, but your voice captures what's real right now. And voice notes let you speak without editing. And when you play them back later, you'll often hear your own wisdom inside the mess. So here's what you can expect when you try this: clarity, emotional release, and a stronger connection to what's really going on underneath the craving, because you're going to hear that emotion. Okay, the next one, quick pattern journaling. This isn't about paragraphs or polished reflections. It's about grabbing the messy data of your day and noticing what repeats. Things like time of day cravings hit, what you were doing, what you were feeling. Over time, you start to see your unique triggers, those cues that signal your brain it's time for a drink. Not just generic ones. Okay, so what to expect when working through this one? You'll have less confusion about why this keeps happening and more empowerment to anticipate and redirect the loop. Very important. We have to understand why this keeps happening. Okay, the next one, name what you're avoiding. Most cravings are actually about escape. We rarely crave alcohol for the taste. We crave it for the relief it promises. When you pause and you name what you're trying to avoid, like for example, I'm afraid of being alone tonight, or I don't want to deal with that email. You take the power back. You pull the craving into the light. Okay, here's what you can expect when you try this one: a big drop in urgency, more choice in the moment, and a growing sense of emotional maturity that builds self-trust. I want you to feel this. If you're in the this isn't sticking phase, this isn't a dead end. It's a doorway. We all have options here. So keep that mind open and explore what yours are. So looking more at this whole perfection state of mind, we have to ditch it. You haven't come this far in life because you did everything perfectly. You are where you are because you've slipped, made mistakes, and learned lessons along the way. You will see that this is where things start to shift, not through perfection, but through active presence. When you stop abandoning yourself in the hard moments and you start meeting them with curiosity, the story changes. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight, but it will happen, and it's going to happen deeply. And no, you don't have to navigate this part alone. Inside this work, you'll learn how to move through the mess in real time with tools, support, and with someone who sees the woman you're becoming even before you fully do. And remember, progress doesn't always look dramatic from the outside, but this kind, the kind where you show up differently even once, that's the kind that sticks. I mean, what if it's not about getting it perfect, and it never was? What if the real shift is learning how to trust yourself again, especially when things feel messy? Because this work, it pays off in the most surprising ways, not just in the days you don't drink, but in the mornings you wake up proud, in the conversations where you're fully present, in the quiet confidence that builds when you realize you can handle your life without numbing it. One client told me, I thought I was failing because I still thought about drinking. But now I realize I'm not stuck there. I'm evolving. Keep going. Every moment you stay with yourself instead of checking out is a moment you're becoming her. You're becoming the woman who lives with peace in her mind, pride in her choices, and space to become who she's meant to be. Okay, friend, That's it for me this week. If you're feeling like this was all a lot to do on your own, you're not alone. You can step into a beautiful community of women at Feel Good AF. The other side of alcohol is waiting for you, and I believe in you. You will absolutely get there. Remember, you can book a discovery call with me to learn more and see if it's a good fit for you. The link's in the show notes. And if you're loving this podcast, please rate and follow the podcast if you are enjoying it. It helps other women who need help and support find it. I believe in you.